What is up, everybody? Welcome back to another NBA Rundown brought to you courtesy of Run Pure Sports and Run Pure Bets. I got the whole crew with me here today. We're here. A lot has changed since the last time that we all talked. Tyler, you've been on, so the people know what you think about these series, but we haven't talked to you guys in a couple days. Start with you, Travis. Let's start with the Suns and the Nuggets. That series is over. We're not going to talk about the Suns for a week. Maybe your quick thoughts on that series and what do you expect from them going forward?
Yeah, mostly disappointed in myself for not jumping on that more. I didn't love my price, I guess, on it. But man, they were impressive, and it was good to see. Also, I don't think everyone saw Chris Paul being, I guess, as healthy as he's looked. He's looked really good in this series for sure. I think that was a little bit unknown as well. But overall, it's encouraging to see. I'm happy to see the Suns get to the next round. I think that they'll be. If they play the Jazz, if they play the Clippers, I'm excited either way. I think that's going to be a really good series. It'll be fun to see where it shakes out, and I'm happy to see the Suns getting the respect that they deserve. Where's my boy West Coast Jim? Hopefully he's in the chat.
He's here. He said morning, and the Hawks are coming back, and he can't stand the Suns. He cannot stand the Suns. So he's going to put some SP50 on. JSU, what did you think of the sweep there by Chris Paul and the Suns?
Yeah, I mean, first of all, that last game, I mean, we could go in on the league and the refs for what they did to Jokic, which was just an absolutely awful call. And all because of the intensive windup of the arm. The dude hit all ball. His hand hit all ball. If you want to say, oh, well, in slow motion, his arm brushed up against his nose. Well, yeah, okay. But in my opinion, Cam Payne should be fined for faking that and curling up in a ball after he got hit. That shit was horrible.
Dude, do you want LeBron to go bankrupt?
They all should be fined. I can't stand it. That was horrible.
I'm with you on the league.
The dude was curled up in a ball. Did you guys see? No one's even talking about this either, which I thought was hilarious. But the Jokic, okay, when they slow-moed it, you could tell when his hand hit the ball, his bicep or arm or shoulder.
That's why it's because of the bicep
touched his nose. It touched his nose on the way down. There's no way any grown man should be curled up in a ball after that. What are we doing? And no one's talking about that. Everyone's talking about, it was the right call. Oh, he should have been. No, he shouldn't have been tossed. People are insane if they thought that guy should have actually been tossed. The best player on the court, possibly the MVP of the league, and you throw him out of a game with a quarter and a half or a quarter and, a couple minutes left, of a series-ending game too, may I add. This was it. And you throw them out? Awful. Terrible. NBA, the refs, they all need to take a serious look at themselves because that can't happen. You can't throw the best player out for that crap.
So some of us rostered Jokic and got sixth and was 6 points.
What do you mean some of us? All of us.
I'm very hurt. That was a JC. That was a heartbreaking one for me. I lost. I was in sixth place. No one ahead of me had Jokic in the $333, and I lost by 6 points. So my heart was really just in pain after that. So it was not a fun ride, but it is a shame to see that the league really went out and did that. Money aside that I lost, right? Just in that situation, you just can't be throwing him out. Sometimes in life, we just need to use judgment, right? And there's no reason to think that. Now, if Jokic afterwards, was jawing at them a ton or pushed someone, yeah, I could see it, but it just felt so unnecessary to do it at that moment. But we march on, I guess.
Well, yeah, but it's not even the refs either. And I don't want to make it look like it's the New York office or, when they put the headphones on and they're talking with whoever they're talking with from the league. You know what I'm talking about, where they review the calls and stuff like that. I mean, all those guys, someone should be fired. This is awful. That is terrible call. That can't be a call. You can't throw somebody out for that. You want to give them a foul? I don't even think it should have been a foul, personally. That's another thing that no one wants to talk about. Awful.
Well, I think it was a foul, and the other thing I would say is it's
Fred, how is it a foul though if his hand
he got
hit
some
all
arm
ball?
on there.
Yeah, but no, the hand hit the ball, and then the arm hit the nose. How is it a foul?
The arm hit the
I
nose?
never understood that in basketball. Like if I hit the ball and then I bump into you, like almost simultaneous, like I don't know. That's kind of like
call that in the paint
on.
too, right? Yeah,
I'm
with you there.
Fine, whatever though. If it's a foul, it's a foul, but it's not a toss out. Like
no, I agree with you there. And I think that if the series was closer, I don't know if they do. At 3-0, I don't really think it mattered.
No, it wouldn't have changed the series.
Yeah.
Like,
I mean, maybe for Phoenix, it cost them a little home game revenue because they could have got to a game 5, but I don't even know if they won that game. That series was lost to me, and I picked the Nuggets beforehand, and I'm not beating myself up on it. Michael Porter Jr. wasn't 100%. He had no explosiveness, and we see these players, as good as the star is, LeBron couldn't do it on his own, Steph can't do it on its own, and now we see that Jokic can't do it on its own. So
I just wanted to see Jokic finish out the game. Like, I didn't want the best player to leave the court. Like, I don't care.
I agree with you. You give the team 2 shots in the ball. Campaign gets 2 shots, and they get the side out.
And he should have got fined. And he should have got fined.
I do agree with JSU on that. So, like, if you start saying the guys that are doing the flopping, and you fine them, and you or suspend them, that is a quick way to kind of turn that around, right? You need repercussions for things, right? It's like if a kid, sneaks out of their house when they're not supposed to at midnight, and then you ground them from something they like. Well, now they're not going to do it again, right? Maybe they will. They might test the boundaries, but after a while they'll get sick of it. You have to actually have repercussions for things, because if I'm just able to flop however I want, I'm just going to keep flopping all over the place, and so I can get calls. So I get an advantage because I'm doing my best to win the game. And if a flop is going to help me win the game, I'm a flop.
Yeah, it's the truth. I mean, you're going to do whatever you can to get an advantage. And he clearly did it. I mean, and it obviously worked too, because he was down and they threw him out. So maybe it didn't have anything to do with it. Maybe it didn't play in at all. But I'm just saying to you, if that dude didn't fall and curl up in a ball, does Jokic get thrown out of the game? I don't know.
Yeah, I mean,
I don't know.
Certain blame goes to Jokic, though. The idea that I just want to do a hard foul to send a message and turn the game around, that's not how you turn the game around in my mind. Like, you don't
It's still just a hard foul, though. It's not a toss-out.
It is, but at the same time, when you want to play that game, right, that's the risk you take, right? Just like if I bet the game tonight, I might lose my unit when I make the bet. I mean, if you want to start to do hard fouls, Bill Laimbeer style, to change the style of the game, and you can't do it just by simply defending or scoring, I think I don't
hate the Jokic idea of trying to do the hard foul to just get some energy out. I mean, there's a quarter left, you know what I mean? When you see your guy in there, right, like battling, like it makes you want to battle with them, right? Like
I agree, but it's just a slippery slope when that's the way that you want to get out of the deficit, is by making the game more physical,
Yeah, but that wasn't even a hard foul, is my point to this whole thing. It wasn't even a hard foul. The hand didn't touch body. The only thing that touched body was his arm. As his hand went down on the ball, it came across his nose. That's the only thing.
Yeah, but he's out there swinging like it was one of those like carnivals where you have the hammer and you're trying to get the bell all the way to the top. I mean,
Fred, though, at the end of the day, he hit the ball. He hit the ball. If his hand hit his arm or something, like any part of his body, I could see it maybe, but even then, I don't think it's a toss out. I think it was a terrible call.
I get it if the hand hit, because it feels like you can aim your hand in a way, right? Like it was like the flab of his arm. So I think.
I mean, when I watch like a play like that call that Devin Booker got on PJ Tucker, and I'm going back to the Suns Bucks, and I'm just Max, I lost that bet. But I mean, he barely bumped him with his hip, and they called a foul on that, right? So, I mean, when you're swinging 100%, and he did get armed.
You don't put the ball in the 10th row.
Yeah. Let's try and figure out who Matt's talking about here. Matt says it's funny there's a guy on the panel that somehow I disagree with every one of his takes. Who would you guys think that he's talking about?
My guess was JSU.
That's my guess.
It's either me or JSU, I'm thinking. So we'll
oh my God. So he actually thinks that Jokic should have been thrown out?
I don't know. Either that or he's agreeing with you and he thinks that I'm being soft. And as an older guy who watched like Bill Laimbeer play.
All I'm gonna say
right?
is I agree with Ron here. He said back in the '90s, that's not even a foul. Like that's not even.
And we're gonna get into this later
like,
when we talk about PJ Tucker, Kevin Durant. So let's table this for a bit, and let me just get your thoughts on last night. Let me start with you, JSU. Your thoughts on Philadelphia, Atlanta. Tyler and I liked Atlanta before the series. We thought that Jokic would get worn down. The first 3 games, we looked like we were wrong, as he's dropping 40 every night. He didn't look 100% last night.
Before
I'm
he
not
goes,
taking
we
anything
got
away
James
from him.
Harden news.
All right, give it to me.
He plans to play barring setback.
Cool.
No
that makes me like the
way.
Bucks even more.
he's gonna play.
He's going to play.
We'll get to that in a couple minutes, though. JSU,
Wow.
let me hear your thoughts about Joel Embiid, 0 for 12 in the second half. Harris, Simmons, and Embiid, 0 points combined in the fourth quarter. What a meltdown. The Hawks should have won that game by 20. I don't know whether to upgrade or downgrade them. The Hawks should have won that game by 20. I don't know what to make of this game moving into Game 5. What did you see last night?
So first off, spread. You were on the Hawks side to begin the series.
Yeah,
I don't know if I was on that show. Was I on that show?
It was just Tyler and I, and we were on the plus money, and our idea was, we're getting plus 160 on the Hawks, and Embiid's not 100%. If he's not 100%, the team is just a 7-8 seed. They're a glorified Washington Wizards to me.
That's okay. Yeah, that's fair. I mean, Embiid has definitely looked still pretty good. I will say, through the series, is he not 100%? No doubt.
Oh, he didn't look good to me at all last night.
No, I'm saying though, for the whole series though, if you put how he's played, he's still dropping 30-ish points.
Yeah, no, and that's why the first 3 games, me and Tyler are like, well, we're wrong. It looks like he's 100% healthy. I guess torn meniscus ain't no thing these days.
Yeah, exactly. That's how I looked at it, because I looked at it kind of like you guys, where I was like, wow, Embiid, he's got to be somewhat hurt, and then he goes out there and dominates the first couple of games, and you're like, shit, is he actually hurt or not? Yeah, complete meltdown though. I mean, I thought Philly was going to run away with that game from the jump. I mean, to start, Ben Simmons was playing phenomenal in the first half, I would say. I think he had close to a triple-double at halftime. It was like 8, 11, and 7 or something like that. And when Ben Simmons is playing like that, normally Philly is tough to stop, because, that's how he gets that team going, when he is pushing the ball in transition, making easy assists for buckets, getting rebounds, running the floor. And so watching the first half, I don't know if you guys thought the same thing, but I was like, yep, this is going to be an easy Philly victory, just another game where they end up winning. And no, the Hawks came back. I mean, I got to give credit to Trae Young. Trae Young, I thought, played really good and just brought the team back. Bogdanovich was another key guy, I thought, in the series. He had a good start to the game and then kind of stalled out for half of it after that good first quarter start. But, I think he's a key to the series, because the Hawks need his offense. I still think Philly ends up winning this series, because I think 3/4 of Embiid is going to be good enough for them to beat the Hawks team. Because in the end, if you're trusting that Joel Embiid in another game is going to go 4 for 20 and only get to the free throw line 8 times, which I think was another key, and I talked about this on another show, but when Joel Embiid is getting to the free throw line 13, 14, 15 times a game, it's tough to beat Philly. It's really tough. So he got 8 free throws, and he was 4 for 20. If you trust that's going to happen again, you should like the Hawks again, but I don't. So I'm going to still stick with Philly's winning this series, even though I'm not the biggest Philly backer, but I am a big Joel Embiid guy. And it was impressive, though, for the Hawks. I mean, I thought after the first half the game was over, to be honest with you, the way they were playing.
Yeah, and if you do become the commissioner and do your little fines for flopping, I think Embiid would have encouraged some of your wrath last night, probably forking over a big check there, because as ugly as it is to see campaign, at least it's a little dude getting hit by a big dude, right? Sometimes when Embiid gets hit by Bojan Bogdanovic, who's 6'5", and he's falling on the ground like he got shot, it's tough to watch sometimes.
It's spread. It's hard though when you're a big guy, because those big guys get
they have to accentuate it, otherwise they don't get any of the calls at all. Yeah,
right, exactly. Yeah. And I think that's a problem with Jokic a little bit too, is he never gets any calls, and I don't know if people realize it, but I think it's because he doesn't do enough
He doesn't
of that.
move.
Like,
He's so big that like a
yeah,
guy like
exactly.
me or a smaller guy can push him and he doesn't move. So you don't call.
If he pulled the Embiid crap, I think he'd be getting to the free throw line a little more. Or maybe it's just that they don't respect Jokic as much. Like, I don't know. Like, it's got to be something, though, because he doesn't get any calls. I mean, say what you will about Ayton. I thought Ayton played really physical with him the entire series, and he should have. But, like, Jokic got no love from the officials when it came to calls.
Yeah, and that's been a constant theme. Travis, what did you think of that series, and what's your attitude towards it going forward? Any plans for you to fly to Atlanta again?
No, I wish. It would be fun. I would probably rather go to Philly, right? Philly's not too far, and it's not the Garden, right? The Garden.
I think I'd rather go to Atlanta.
Yeah, the Garden prices are stupid. I don't want to be with those stupid Knicks fans anyways. But I mean, I still don't think Atlanta's like dead, right? Like, I thought that was a game like Philly should have won, right? You want to take out like the weird variance things that can happen throughout a series. Like, Embiid could easily go to the locker room halfway through a game. I don't think anyone would be surprised here. And then Atlanta could win, right? That felt like a game that, Philly's the better team, but you're like, man, you got to close that game out. At least that's what I felt like. I don't think Atlanta's dead by any means. I also don't have complete confidence in Atlanta, but I'm just going to enjoy the series from the sidelines. I bet the Hawks at the start of the series price, because I personally thought that Embiid, wasn't going to be looking as great as he has, and he's looked good. Yep. He slowed down a little bit last night, and clearly some fatigue got to him, but I expect Philly to bounce back at home. But I would just say this, if you're someone that is backing Philly, I mean, Philly's a team that's they just play down to their competition all the time. I see it all the time. And that's why I was just very concerned about them. So I'm not shocked that Atlanta won last night. I also wasn't out there betting Atlanta money line. I wasn't like, having this strong conviction, but you now made it a 3-game series. And I think if you're a Philly backer, you feel confident in everything you've seen because you think that Embiid will get the job done, right? You think he'll get to the free throw line more. You know that the game was close and he only made He shot 0 for 12 in the second half, which is absolutely crazy. But at the same time, if you are a Philly backer and you've been watching Philly close, I don't think you feel like this absolute confidence that you won't get screwed some way or another, because Philly always finds a way to do it, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, 0 for 12. You got to remember some of those were some bad flops, though, where he was just throwing the ball towards the rim to try and get a foul. Tyler, quick thoughts on the game last night. What'd you think?
Yeah, I mean, Philly just looks like they laid a dud in that second half. I mean, just like JSU said, it looked like in the first half we were cruising, and then it just flipped. But I mean, that 6.5 for the next game makes you almost think that odds makers think the same thing. They think Philly's just going to come out and smash them in the next game. Now, I was on Atlanta with you at the beginning spread, but if Embiid's going to play, I mean, they look like they have no.
I just hope the Hawks win this next game, and I can just hedge out at a profit.
No, I mean, if you told me that like Embiid is healthy the whole way, right? Like, you didn't have value on your series price, right? Like, which is like one of those things that I was betting in my handicap of the series, and I also thought like they're a better team than people realized. Which why everyone was saying, oh, slam Philly. And I was like, well, not so fast. Now, of course, if Embiid is healthy all the way, but do we think some of his fatigue towards the end there had to do with the injuries that he's had and not being able to be as conditioned? Do you think that somehow factors in at all, Spread?
Well, he's never been conditioned. I've never thought of him as a well-conditioned athlete. And I do think the injury, just wears down. Like, he's constantly being in pain. Has to really be frustrating, and he did not get a friendly whistle last night. I was fine with it. It's the playoffs. I don't want to watch people shoot free throws. Like, work through the lane, score some baskets here.
Yeah, I think Philly is the. There's some conversation in the chat that's good about it. I think Philly is like the better team, but I just don't think like Atlanta's completely dead, right? Like, right. Everyone was. I was joking in the Discord chat. People were like Sixers in 5, and I was just like, oh, not so fast. No more Sixers in 5 talk.
Yeah.
Series can just change in a blink of an eye, right?
Sixers fans think their team is way better than they actually are.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think they realize how much their team relies on Joel Embiid. Like, if that game didn't show you that, then I don't know what. Their team is all about Joel Embiid. Take him away, and their team – I don't even know if they're 7 or 8
They're
seed.
The Wizards. No, they're right around there. They would have been a playing team.
I would take the Wizards over that team. Well, I'll take Russ and Beal again.
And I think the Jazz. I think the Jazz and the Nets. Like, we have a lot of series that we've seen that have shown great examples of it. Like the Nets. I wish we could have seen what could have happened, right? But that Kyrie injury really like changed a ton of things. So now obviously I feel like the Bucks have an advantage. Now, who knows what Harden's going to look like coming out? We'll have to see. But clearly I think everyone agrees if it's just KD and the Funky Bunch, well, yes, of course, like the Bucks have the advantage and should get the job done. Also, the Jazz series, I think a lot of people were like, man, Utah's really strong. I think a lot of people also just saw the Clippers and they said they could probably right the ship. But I think a lot of people were looking at the Jazz series and saying, man, the Jazz might actually pull off something that some people felt like might feel like an upset, but even though they were considered the favorites. But now Donovan Mitchell, he's not completely right, I don't think. And it's like these series can just flip out of nowhere because of these small injuries that guys are playing through. And the lines aren't really calculating properly because guys just play through them and they just assume that they're fine. So that's something just to look at as things go on. I mean, maybe Embiid ends up hurting himself a little bit and he's not completely healthy. We did see him hit the ground that one time and he was limping around, right? Maybe because he shot over 12, maybe he actually is not right and he's playing through something and he's just not the same. And these are things that we need to figure out in our handicaps that I don't think we talk enough about.
Yeah, and Adam Silver, right? When we said we want the NBA to be more like the NFL, we didn't want it to be a war of attrition. And this 5 month, 72 games in 5 months is coming home to roost. And it's just going to be like, almost like certain NFL seasons where whoever's the healthiest. You ever notice like when the 49ers win the Super Bowl, right? They had no one on the injury list, right? A lot of times it's feeling that same way here. And if you're a Philadelphia fan, right, you cannot be happy that the best highlight of your star center last night was him watching Kawhi Leonard dunk on the Jazz. Let's shift into that series. And Travis, we'll start with you here. Clippers University take the victory lap. We got another one home. What did you think, and how do you feel about these last 3 games?
Yeah, I feel good. I think the Clippers, I feel really good about understanding the Clippers and handicapping them. The problem is they're not easy to 1, sweat, 2, watch, and 3, just bet on, because it's like you sit there and you place the bet on the Clippers and you say, okay, well, they're going to give up these open threes, and if they fall, I'm kind of screwed, right? And if their threes don't fall, I don't feel great about them. So looking back to Dallas, the Clippers are going to sweep Dallas, I feel dumb for saying it, not just because Dallas was a lot better, but because the way the Clippers played them, they just tend to give up open threes. And when threes fall, you're just going to lose, right? I mean, that's just part of the variance of the way that they're playing defensively. I think the Clippers, that small ball team, is getting to the Jazz. I don't think the Jazz have enough to hang on. And I think that those first couple games where the Clippers were doing stupid stuff like playing DeMarcus Cousins and all these other guys, it made sense because you just can't play 14 straight games of Morris and Batum getting 40 minutes a night. That just was not going to work. You need to give those guys a bit of a break. That's why Marcus Morris the other night getting 22 minutes only and being able to run on Terrence Mann and Luke Kennard and them having a really good stretch in the fourth quarter and have a cushion lead, that mattered a ton where you could give those guys breaks because that small ball lineup is literally what they need to win games. They got to go Kawhi. They got to go Paul George. They got to put Reggie Jackson at the point. And then Batum and Morris make the most sense. But then you have to have that 6th or 7th guy that can mix in and hold their own. And you have to figure out who that rotation piece is. And getting some rest for them would be big. If the Clippers can steal a game in Utah, it would be really big. The question is, how will those role players step up with Utah? Obviously, being in Utah, role players will play a little bit better. Being on the Clippers side, those guys won't play as well probably in Utah, right? You probably won't expect a big Marcus Morris game unless Markieff decides to travel and show up to the game and he shoots lights out again. I do think that Mitchell injury is more serious than people are realizing. I do think Rudy Gobert in this series has been figured out a little bit. And I think if Kawhi plays well, I think they can steal one. I think the best way to cap this game is kind of what I said the other day, spread. Bet the Kawhi Leonard points over. I think that's where you're going to make your money. And I think if he goes over, they win the game. And then even if they lose, I think Kawhi can have a big game and it could be the role player's fault. So that's kind of how I handicap this game. I want to bet the Clippers, but I'm going to bet it through the Kawhi over on points.
Yeah. Some interesting things in that game. JSU, I was of the theory they should have pulled Donovan in the first half. He was out there. It was a great performance. It was wonderful. But at the same time, you're just putting wear and tear on this game. So I thought that. And also, Travis, one other thing I forgot. You mentioned them wanting to win in 6. It doesn't matter. They're only going to get 2 days off no matter what. So the schedule's either going to start, Western Conference Finals either start June 20th, which is a Sunday, or it starts on the 22nd, which is a Tuesday. So no matter what, the Clippers only get 2 days off. This team is going to be running on fumes.
On the flip side, Spread, it's obviously you don't have to play another game, and the other team doesn't get an extra 2 days of rest, right? So that
right.
I think that helps a little bit, but I think it would just be nice for them to be able to not have to go through it. And in game sevens, they can take a lot of energy out of you, Spread, where that flip over to game one, it's not as easy. I mean, there's a lot of just emotional energy that goes into those games, especially having to travel back to Utah and take them on in Utah, where, again, it's not the easiest place to play at.
Exactly. So we'll have a little rest versus rest debate coming up. JSU, what were your thoughts on Donovan Mitchell last night? And did you agree with me that those were maybe some pointless minutes and that, as great as the performance was, maybe it would have been better to just let him rest?
Well, I mean, Mitchell probably didn't want to come out. 1, 2, they've been running these guys out. Even in regular season games, in blowouts, they'd let them run out, almost finish out games sometimes. And get a bunch of minutes. So I just don't think Mitchell wanted to come out either. That's probably the other thing. Yeah, you're probably right. It's probably meaningless, but nothing you can do now. So one point that I think was brought up in chat that I was going to bring up is,
let's do it.
Yeah, I think your boy Matt said Utah's a different animal at home, 31-5. That's one thing I think that maybe some people might overlook and just take the last 2 games that have happened with the Clippers. I think Utah, it's just showing that they definitely rely a little more on being at home, that home crowd. Even I was on the phone with Big T, and he was saying the same thing to me last night. We were talking about the game, and he was kind of saying, like, I think Utah, they need that home crowd a little bit. Kind of makes sense, too. This team is a 3-point shooting team. They rely on the 3-point. I talked about their efficiency shooting the 3-point shot during the regular season, how they are, tops in attempts and makes and percentage and all that stuff. They were like top 5, 1 in a lot of those categories. So this team relies on the 3 ball, and it makes sense at home. They're a lot better of a team. I could see a situation where, they come out of nowhere in this next game, game 5 back home, and they win the game, and then they lose again in LA, and then it goes to a game 7 where we all know, Kawhi Leonard and those guys, game 7, it's tough to go against him. I will say he's really good, and he seems calm all the time. I don't know, It's the weirdest thing. Everyone calls him like a robot or whatever. Like, the guy just doesn't seem to get phased. Like, down 2-0, like, doesn't matter. He just comes in, he just puts it on him the next game. Like, just nothing seems to phase him. He's always been that way, though, right? Where you just he's just built differently, I think, than a lot of people.
Yeah, he just means business out there. That's it.
Yeah.
Never
it's like
argues, calls, nothing. He might throw his arms up for a minute, but then he's right back down the floor playing defense.
Did you see the Kobe there was something on Twitter about Kobe yesterday. There was like a little clip of him, and it was him up 2-0. And the reporter goes like, "Why aren't you smiling? You're up 2-0." And he's like, "Job's not done yet." Like, and he wouldn't smile. And he's just like, "Job's not finished yet. Like, is the job done?" No. I feel like Kawhi has a little bit of that in him, but he doesn't say it though, right? Like he won't ever say that like Kobe did.
Yeah.
Tyler, you got to party on the campus of Clippers University last night. How did it feel? Did you enjoy your time with me and Travis down at Clippers University last night?
I mean, it was fun until Kawhi banged knees with Joe Ingles and went to the bench for the last couple of minutes.
I thought you were going to get it
score 4 more points, but
yeah, I have a treat sitting in the drafts, just waiting to congratulate you that never got to get sent.
We cashed the -4.5 with him. We didn't get the Batum prop home, but he took 6-3, so we got the shot attempts. We just didn't let him fall.
Yeah, I thought we got that one. So I'll be looking forward to talking to you, and I think we'll have maybe Hoop and Title on that day too to talk about it. But let's jump into tonight's game. Milwaukee now, well, it's -4. They just took it off the board. I'm assuming it's off the Harden news. It had dipped to 3. Why don't we start with you, Travis? What do you think about James Harden playing? Actually, it's back on the board at -3. I like that a little better. It was up to 5 already this morning. Give me that free point for the Harden news. What do you think? Mangone, I haven't got involved in this game yet. Obviously, I'm invested in the series. And my concerns, I told Tyler, I wish I could bet the prop that PJ Tucker gets 2 fouls in the first 6 minutes. because I think Durant is going to get the friendliest whistle tonight. What do you expect tonight, Travis?
I guess you could bet like PJ Tucker unders on like his points.
Minutes.
Yeah, you could bet that. There's ways you could do that spread, right? Obviously, if he loses minutes, less opportunity to get there on something. Man, I don't love betting this game. I'll say that. Like, you just don't know what Harden is, right? Like, you just have no idea what's going to happen. Sometimes, again, it's the only game on the board, and you want to, look to bet something, but I don't know. Maybe I'll just watch as a fan and just kind of enjoy the game. But I know we want to put some action on something, obviously. If you force me to lean, I'd probably lean on the Nets because I think Harden, I've been leaning the whole time. Like, Harden is going to come back in this series. I don't think a lot of people lean that way, but I just don't know what he is. I know Holden was in the chat saying it's a lot like the Anthony Davis situation. And like, sure, it's easy to say because like we just saw the Anthony Davis situation. It's just really simple. But I don't know what he's going to be. I don't think any of us really know. I'm curious to see if he goes full go, right? Is he just going to more stand in the corner, try and be a decoy? We just really don't know. If I bet anything in this game, it's probably me wanting to bet like some prop, right? Maybe look at a KD over because I think he takes over a little bit more. And who knows, Harden might defer a bit. I just don't really want to get involved in the game as much and maybe look at props more.
Yeah, JSU, I'm kind of the mind that I think Holden's right about the AD thing, and I almost think that if he didn't go out there and put the Lakers in the hole, I don't know if the Suns win that game. The way the Lakers played in the second half, I kind of envisioning something like that happening now. I don't think he's 100%. I don't think he'd be playing if this was February, and I think that he's going to try to force it out there. But unfortunately, he could be more of a liability, especially on the defensive end. What do you expect from James Harden and the Brooklyn Nets tonight, JSU?
Yeah, so first of all, when you're comparing this to the AD thing, it is slightly different. Like, AD pulled his groin, and within like 48 hours, they wanted to bring him back and have him play like a basketball game. Like, it just wasn't happening. Like, that's – at least Harden's guy. When was that first game? June 5th? So what's it, 10 days now? Yeah. Somewhere around there. So he's had 10 days. The problem's going to be like James Harden's game. Like, you're going to know right off the bat if he's a decoy or not because his game is not to sit in the corner and wait for the ball. Like, if James Harden starts off without the ball in his hands, you should be extremely worried. Like, really worried. All right, if he starts off the game, though, with him putting the ball between his legs 4 times and then going to his left right by somebody and trying to go to the hole hard, then you should be a little more confident that he's at least going to try and play normal James Harden. The fear is going to be right when he goes off that one leg, right when he pushes off that one, because, when you go up for when you go hard to the hoop, you're going to push off one leg. And if it's the bad leg, and he pushes off it and it's not good, like, he could pull it again. And that's the thing with hamstring injuries all the time. You don't know. But at least it's not exactly the AD thing. Now, it does seem like they're rushing him back, though, which is probably what Holden's more getting at, where he probably wasn't 100% healthy. But and if Kyrie was healthy, would he play in this game? The answer is probably no, right? So we all know that. Would he have come back eventually for this series, though? That's what I wonder. Like, was he still like one game away and they were like, okay, everyone's healthy still, we're good. And then Kyrie gets hurt and they're like, oh, we might have to, we might need you for the next game. So that's kind of what I'm interested in. How close was he to actually being ready to go prior to Kyrie in the last game getting injured? And we just don't know. Right. That's the thing. So, and by the way, I'm also going to bet the Nets because I think that KD gets every single call tonight.
Oh, it's going to be so stupid.
Every single call. Yeah. Like, yeah, I wouldn't be shocked if he dropped 50. Like,
yeah.
He's
They're going to grab that referee that did Montreal with Bret Hart and Shawn Michaels, right? I mean, this this is in the book. Tyler, what do you think about tonight's game? Which side are you leaning?
I still lean the Buck side, just for the simple fact that, just like JSU said, you're going to know if that hamstring is actually still messed up very early because the way he plays, he's got the ball a lot. He's always moving. If he's standing in the corner just shooting threes, he can't do anything. The other thing is, when you look at these 2 games Brooklyn won, Look at the minutes their stars logged in those games. If he's going to play, he's not going to be able to play 20 to 25 minutes and then pull this game off. He's going to have to play 35 minutes with Durant playing 40 plus. I don't see him doing that. I also see Drew Holiday all over him from the start of the game, just frustrating him. So I still think the Bucks win this game. Now, their offense started to get a little better last game, but it's still not where it was in the regular season. If them threes start to fall, I mean, this could be a blowout for the Bucks.
Yeah, I think if you're the Bucks, that's the game script you want. And even though I said it and it fell short in Game 3, I think a close game with Kevin Durant being able to create in the half court favors them. Tyler, you are the prop genius. Help me out here. I want to go back to Joe Harris. JJ loves buy low spots. I buy into JJ's philosophy on that. Joe Harris, buy low. What do you think? Too obvious? What do you think?
I mean, his number's 13.5. It might drop a little bit with the Harden news now, so I would wait.
Mm-hmm.
But, I mean, he shot bad the last 2 games. Back at home, he should shoot better. Maybe just play his threes prop over 3.5, I see it at, because we know Milwaukee loves to give up threes. But one prop I love in this game, and it's one of those player performance doubles, they're going to leave Brook Lopez on the 3 line. He's going to shoot 3 to 5 threes this game. They ramped up his minutes in the last 2 games. He played 30 plus. You can bet him 2+ threes and Milwaukee wins at plus 520 on FanDuel. I think that's worth a shot.
I love these player performance doubles you're coming up with. All right, well, I'm going to give you guys one of my hot takes, and then we'll go to the best bet segments. But let's see if I can rile you up here. Titletown came on this show, and he said Kevin Durant was the best scorer of all time. Of all time, right? We saw what happened when P.J. Tucker got physical with him, right? And when you want to go back and you want to talk about why we are Jordan disciples and Jordan lovers, and we say that no one will ever be this good, because that defense that P.J. Tucker played on him, that was every night in the 1980s, and he was dropping 35 on that. So that's just my hot take. I don't even think basketball is better this way, and I don't think it should necessarily be called this way. But when we talk about how good Jordan was, it's because he was going against P.J. Tucker-style defense every single night. Travis, I know you love this debate. Did you want to jump in?
Yeah, I mean, like, of course, it's just like easy. I mean, like, yeah, I mean, I didn't get to watch Jordan play. Like, I mean, so of course, Title's going to say KD. Like, no kidding. Since you've been born, it's like him and Steph, right? Like, they're the best, like, shooters. Like, yes, that's what Title's going to say. Like, again, I don't know. I don't have the answer. I'm okay to say, like, I don't have the answer as much. And the games were different. So
yeah.
I'm in, like, a different camp where I think the debate's fun, but you can, like, separate the two, right? Like, it's just a different era of basketball. But KD's definitely special, and I'm excited to watch him play, right? Like, let's enjoy this, because you never know when someone's going to get hurt. We don't get to see him too much, So I really want to enjoy KD tonight, and just hopefully he can have a great game and go crazy.
JSU, what do you think? Is that a hot take by me, or is it dead on?
No, it's definitely not a hot take by you. I do think KD's the best player in this era, especially scorer. But you said it right. Michael Jordan played against that type of style of play every night, and they were going after him. Like, those series against Detroit, like, it was like, could you imagine if there was just like a rule whenever you got into the paint to just hammer a guy like now? And it was like these guys would be crying. Multiple guys would be getting thrown out of games. Like Kevin Durant's bodyguard would be coming in like every 5 minutes. Like, he'd be coming in to try and protect them, like running on the court. Anyone else would be getting tackled. Kevin Durant's bodyguard runs in, and he's like breaking it up, pushing PJ Tucker back.
Jason, I disagree, because what would happen is these guys they would adapt to it, right? Like, it's just because that's where the game is gone, so it's easier to do that. Like, if you insert,
so you say that,
I'm just saying it's hard to adapt.
I think that some of these guys are used to the soft, getting these easy calls all the time.
And he's 6'11", 180. You know what I'm saying? It's hard to adapt when you're that thin.
Let's not even go Michael here. I'm not saying that this guy was a better scorer than KD. I'm just bringing this up to prove a point. But Allen Iverson, we found out later after Iverson's career that refs purposely didn't give him calls because they didn't like him.
Right.
They literally did not like Iverson, so they wouldn't give him calls. And if you watched Iverson play, that dude got hammered all the time. He got cracked. I don't know if some of these guys could handle it night in and night out. I don't know if Kevin Durant's body could handle it. Like, that's a thing that no one wants to take into account. And some of these stars were getting like hammered like this every single night. You want to say it's totally different? It is a different game, but my point is, I don't know if Kevin Durant's body could hold up.
Yeah, I just think he would just like gain muscle, right? He'd be in the off season, he'd lift weights. Like, I just think they would like all adapt. Like, I don't know. Maybe that's like a bad.
Yeah, no, and you're right. And this is just kind of a fun one. I really wanted to poke fun
Kevin
at
Durant's been lifting weights this whole time.
Yeah.
I don't know how much he has, but I think he'd like figure it out. You know, I don't know. I guess I lean. Like,
I think when you're Kevin Durant and you're built like he is, it's hard to put muscle on. Like, that's just the truth. Like, you know, and he has too, man. Going look up the pictures of him when he was with the Supersonics or whatever it was that first year.
You're probably right. Like, it is. I will say one fun thing to do sometimes is like when a guy's in his like, you know, prime, look at like the pictures of him when he was like, I don't know, like 18. Like Gordon Hayward's a great example. Like, look at the difference between Gordon Hayward when he was like just a rookie, and like now he's just like looks like this absolute man. Like where he's like actually lifting weights, and it just looks so totally different. So it's fun to see.
Let me throw in one other KD take, and then we're going to get to the best bets. And with Harden coming back, this changes a bit. But let me go ahead and give this take that I thought of before I knew he was going to play. One issue, another thing that I'm worried about the Nets is I talked about before when Kyrie was still on the floor, how impressed I was with Kevin Durant going all 48 minutes on both ends. Not only dominated on the offensive end, but he dominated on the defensive end. If Harden isn't a factor tonight and KD has to take over that role of basically primary creator, primary, you know, everything going through him, does that affect him on the defensive end, and should we be putting that into our handicap? And we don't need to answer it right now, but we'll just keep that in mind as we're going into the best bets. Tyler, best bet time. I will start with you. What is your best bet tonight, side total or prop?
I'm rolling with that Brook Lopez player performance double. I think we get the 2 threes out of him. I think Milwaukee squeaks the game out, so I love that plus 520.
All right. I like that one with you. Travis, what are you going to take tonight?
Yeah, I'm trying to find a prop to really get excited.
Let me go to JSU right now then, because I should have thought that. You already said that you weren't really too high on a side or total.
Yeah, go to JSU.
So we'll talk with JSU, and then you can peruse the props, kind of figure out how it's going to fit into your DFS lineup, and let it go. JSU, what's your best bet for the evening?
Yeah, by the way, Rich Smalls, you're right, 100% AI, greatest small guard ever. I'm with you.
I'm with you too.
So I'm going to go with, I mean, obviously we only have one game, and I'm going to pick a side because I'm not Mangone. And I'm going to go with the Nets here. I just think that even though they're pushing Harden back, I still think that he has had at least a solid amount of time to get there. And I also just think Kevin Durant is going to go nuts. He is the only person, like he is by far the best player in this series. Probably in the league, but by far, in the way I've played NBA when it comes to the playoffs is in these big games, in these big spots, especially when those guys are at home, right? Trust the team with the best player on the floor. KD is the best player on the floor. He's going to prove it tonight. Dude's going to drop 40 plus probably, and like I said, he's going to get every call imaginable. So give me that. KD's for the win. And they're plus money right now, plus 130.
All right. Travis, did you find a prop, or do you want me to give one out and then ask you?
Give yours out because I'm just shopping it. I want to see. It's obviously these news just came out, so I'm curious what if I can find better. Just a better line. All
right. Travis is shopping. I hinted to it earlier. Tyler's a little worried. They didn't move the line with the Harden news. It's still 13.5. But I like Joe Harris to bounce back, man. This is that typical, like I said before, Charles Barkley isn't right about a lot, but he's right about role players play better at home, especially in the postseason. Give me that bounce back. Give me that JJ Sports with Facts buy low. I'll buy low on Joe Harris. Give me over 13.5 points tonight. Mark Price was awesome. Thank you, West Coast. And with that one, is the price right for you, Mangone? We've given you some time here.
Yeah, I like your Joe Harris idea. I'm betting against the Nets role player, but I'm doing it in a proper way. So I think betting against, and I only found one line on it. If you can get the 11.5 on Bruce Brown's points under, you probably can't because
why are we doing this?
What?
Why are we going under on Bruce Brown?
Let me explain. I'm
setting it up for you. Put it on a tee.
Yeah, so I don't want to bet against his like rebounds or his assists, right? The reason why I don't want to bet against those is because those are effort things, and that's what he's really good at, correct? Mm-hmm. So I want to hit the Bruce Brown under on points because you can make arguments for Bruce Brown maybe not getting onto the court as much. We saw him obviously get pulled in the last game. You can make a case that Jeff Green being there, even Harden being back. I think there's just a lot of paths where his can fail, right? Especially if a guy like Joe Harris could be getting there. 9.5 is the line that I'm seeing right now. Landon chat says he thinks it should be 8.5. 9.5 is what I see right now, and you can get plus money. If you shop around, you might be able to get 11.5. I don't know. There's obviously some, if you have like 10 different books, you can sometimes find stuff that leaves some props up. Maybe you find a place that leaves 10.5 up, but the only one that I'm seeing that's actually able to bet is 9.5. So we'll go with 9.5 plus 106 on Bruce Brown. That's reasonable. We will not do the 11.5 because that is an old line, but if you are able to get that line, congrats and grab that thing.
So it's so you're taking under on what is it, Mangone?
9.5 points.
I never take under on a role player at home, but I do understand where you're going for.
So I actually don't like how Bruce. If James Harden is going to play a bunch of minutes, I don't like how they go together. I think Bruce Brown isn't as effective when Harden's on the floor.
I mean, do you guys
because
really
Harden needs the floor
10 minutes?
But I mean.
It's almost
you're
like
back
the
in the nets. You better hope
right?
so. You better hope so right now if you're back in the nets. But I was going to say, Harden needs the floor spaced, and Bruce Brown isn't a spacer. So he actually clogs the paint because what they do with him is they run him like foul line. So it kind of doesn't work when Harden's at the top of the key trying to, do his crossover through the legs move and go by someone. Like if you put someone at the foul line, you're kind of clogging up that area where Harden wants to attack. So I kind of do like the under on that if Harden's going to get solid minutes.
I can see you seem like the type of guy that uses that through the legs move a lot, JSU.
I can put it through the legs a few times.
Yeah,
I was more of an in and out. I was more of an in and out guy. I like my in and out move.
Just going through the legs was like super flashy when I was a kid.
JC, are you slashing to the hoop or are you doing the Chris Paul fade? Are you doing the little floater Trae Young style? What's the move?
Oh no, a float. I had the float game. Left, right. I could do it left, right-handed. I could do it both sides, both hands, didn't matter. Runners from the free throw line. I would pull all that crap out. Anything to shoot over a 6'6" guy.
Yeah.
Left, right, get off my court. That's what JSU does.
That's it. I didn't have the Chris Paul fadeaway mid-ranger game that he has though. He has that nice fade jump shot in the mid.
Yeah, I love, and this is my favorite thing about overreactions on NBA Twitter is people putting Chris Paul ahead of Isaiah because he beat the Denver Nuggets without Jamal Murray and Michael Porter Jr. I mean, but that's an argument for a different time. Guys, thank you guys for hanging out. Hopefully you guys will both be back tomorrow because we will have 2 games to go over. Jason and I, the Sports Keg, decided we will be going live on Wednesday night this week. So we have a 2-game slate rather than wait for this game 6. So we will be live tomorrow night. Hopefully I'll have these gentlemen back tomorrow. And let's see, we're all over the board. Tyler likes Milwaukee. JSU likes the Nets. And Travis and I, we didn't want to get involved, so we picked some player props. And we'll be back tomorrow to recap the results, talk about the game. And as this week has showed, I mean, you never know what's going to happen, right? Two games ago, we were moving Budenholzer over to Indiana to coach that team, right? And trying to figure out where Milwaukee goes from here after being swept. So things can change really quickly in the association. Thank you, everybody, for hanging out. Make sure you head on over to runpurebets.com if you want to get access to all the plays. Promo codes BET25 off. Other than that, please like the video, subscribe to the channel. We'll be back tomorrow. Run.